I will open the same image. No, it's not like that. I told you the micro partition sizes will be around 50 to, not an around
500 MB.
50 to 500 MB. Prasanna. Each micro partition size is 50 to 500 MB. Maybe this image may cause you to get the confusion, not like that. It's simple. Once we load the data into the table, the data will be stored into the micro partitions. Suppose if you store the data around 500 MB of data in your table, 500 MB of data in your table, fine. Then that entire data will be fit into one micro partition because the micro partition size is 500 MB. If your data is 1 GB, then the 1 GB data will be fit into 2 micro partitions. So based on that, once again, based on that, the data will be split into the multiple micro partitions. See, one micro partition is 50 to 500 MB, maximum is 500 MB. One micro partition is 500 MB. Suppose if 1 GB of data you have in your table, the 2 micro partitions will be occupied. If you have 2 GB of data, then around 4 to 5 micro partitions will be required. You are clear or not clear?
Yes, got it. So it is fixed. 500 MB is fixed.
500 MB is fixed. Once the 500 MB of data is completed in the particular micro partition, then it will move into the next micro partition and then store the data over there.
Okay, so maximum micro partitions would be?
Not like that, based on your table size.
Got it.
If you have a around 2 to 3 TB of data, then what you will do? Then where is the maximum number of micro partitions?
Got it. Okay.
See, data warehouse means we are going to store the historical data. Historical data means we are going to process the huge data, right?
Yes.
Guys, actually, maybe the institute people yesterday they have called me and they told me to inform with you all guys. Maybe they are going to change the link by tomorrow. Better to get the register with the institute and then be touch base with the institute by today.
Okay.
Fine. Clear this question.
Yes, got it.
Okay. Any doubts?
Sir, what will happen if the data volume is less than 50 MB, sir? Like, though it's not practically, but still, if any chance, by any chance, if data volume is less than 50 MB?
If data volume is less than 50 MB, yeah?
Yes, sir.
You tell me what will happen.
No, sir, like as the micro, like this capacity is between 50 to 500 MB. So how this will?
No, that's okay. See, if your table size is around 150 MB, fine. If your table size is around 200 MB, so your question is what will happen, right?
No, sir. My question is, like just a doubt, sir. Like if it's less than 50 MB, let's assume it's 40 MB, sir. If it's 250, then it will have one micro partition. But if it is less than 50 MB, maybe 30, 40 MB, then
okay. Then what is your assumption? Tell me.
No, sir. I'm not sure, sir. But how it's going to fit in the micro partition, sir? That is what I'm just thinking.
No. It is going to store in the micro partition, but it will occupy only the required space and the remaining space will be free. Correct, no? So there
Yes,
is no other concept in the Snowflake. For sure, the data will be stored in the micro partitions. If it is a 1 MB, if it is a 500 MB, that should be stored in the micro partition. If it is the data is only 1 MB, that will occupy one micro partition and occupy 1 or 2 MB of data, and remaining space will be free. That's it.
Correct. So in that case, sir, why it is like 50 to 500 MB? It can be 0 to 500 MB also. Na?
So they have designed like that, yeah. That is not made by you and me. Fine. Architecture is designed like that. So we have not decided that one. The micro partition size should be 5 MB, 6 MB like that. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Fine.
Prasanna, yesterday you were asking about the schemas, right?
Yes, sir.
So what will happen the schema? Let me explain. Okay. So here for sure there is a proper structure. So database is collection of schemas. Schema is collection of objects. I told you guys what are the objects. Fine. See, whatever, see here, collection of objects. Objects means either you maybe tables, views, procedures, functions, etc. Fine. We have so many other objects also in Snowflake. Whenever we create objects, whenever we create any objects in the Snowflake, these objects should be created under schema but not under the database. For sure, you need to create, suppose the schema name is sample schema, then you are going to create all these objects under the sample schema, not in the database. Database is a collection of schemas. In this schema, suppose schema one database may have the multiple schemas. See, I will show you. This is one database. This database has the multiple schemas. Fine. In one schema, you can create a object. All these objects are going to create under a one schema. This schema is available under the database. We can't directly create these objects under this database. For sure, we need to create these objects under any one schema. So here we need to follow like this. In some other databases, suppose if you consider SQL server, directly if you create without mentioning a schema name, directly you are going to create the objects under the default schema called database owner DBO. If you want to create objects in other schemas, then you need to mention that schema. Fine. So like that in Snowflake, you need to create all the objects. You need to create any objects in under schema. This schema will be available in the database. Database is a collection of objects, collection of schemas, and the schema is a collection of objects, all the objects. This is clear or not clear?
Yes, yes, got it, sir.
Fine. Chalo. Then today, so we will discuss then how do you load the data into Snowflake. Fine. So we have a multiple ways. One second. Fine. See, bulk loading. So we have two methods to load the data into a Snowflake. So one is the bulk loading, another one is the continuous loading. So bulk loading is used to bulk loading method is used to load the data from the outside of the Snowflake, from the different sources into a Snowflake. Different, suppose I will tell you. If you have I told in the very initial classes, the Snowflake has built on top of these three cloud providers. These three cloud providers, on top of any one of these three cloud provider. Yesterday, I have created a Snowflake account by using this AWS, by selecting this AWS cloud provider. Now, suppose let's consider you are moving a data from SQL server to SQL server. One second, where is that? So if you are moving a data from SQL server into a Snowflake, you can load or you can move the data into a Snowflake using two methods. One is by connecting ETL tool to the Snowflake, and then by connecting the ETL tool into the SQL server and then Snowflake, you can move or you can load the data into Snowflake one way. ETL tool may be IICS Medallion. The trending combination to the Snowflake ETL tool is IICS and then Medallion tool. Fine. So that is one part. I will tell you. Don't worry. Don't get confusion. Next, If you don't want to load the data using, if you don't want to load the data using a ETL tool, then what you need to do, you will move the data from all the objects into a CSV files. You will move all the data from the objects into the CSV files. You will place all those CSV files into a AWS S3 bucket or else in AWS. Fine. So this is our traditional way. You will move the files into a AWS and then you will connect this AWS with the Snowflake. You will connect the AWS with the Snowflake and then you will load the data into Snowflake. We are not going to cover this way. We are not going to discuss this way. This is a ETL concept. This is again a different concept. And also, you no need to bother whether do I need to learn ETL also. Because you no need to learn ETL in the current market. You have a huge opening on Snowflake development itself, what we are going to discuss as part of the class. If apart from this Snowflake development, if you have a experience in ETL also, then still you have a more demand in the market. But that is again little bit huge syllabus. If you comfortable on the Snowflake development, that is more than enough. Then you will get the job. You will get the job. Once you get the job and then get the experience on Snowflake, then so if you want, you can learn ETL. See, I am working on the Snowflake. Even I don't have experience. I don't have knowledge on ETL tool. I am working on this way only. Fine. Just for your information, I'm telling. But if you have experience on Metallian or IICS tool, ETL tool, then still you have a very good demand in the market. That I can say. Now, as you have a data in your on-prem servers, you need to load this data. You need to migrate this data into the SQL server. Then you will load the data into CSV files. Those CSV files will be loaded into the AWS S3 bucket. From this AWS S3 bucket, you will load the data into Snowflake. This high level, how do you load how do you move the data from on server to Snowflake? Just high level. Have you clear or still you have any doubts? Still, I will explain you in detail. As a high level, just how do you load the data? Have you clear or you have any doubts, guys?
Please explain once more, Shekhar.
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
Shekhar, please explain once more, Shekhar.
Once again,
Yes.
fine. That's fine. See, you have a data in your SQL server. This is on-prem server. On-prem server means non-cloud, right? Fine. See, you have a data in your SQL server, on-prem servers, and also you have a object, you have a stored process, you have a views. Everything you need to migrate into a Snowflake data warehouse. This is clear. The requirement is you have a data and objects and also code in your SQL server, and you need to migrate into the Snowflake data warehouse. This requirement is clear. I will
Yes,
explain you
clear.
one by.
Yes, clear, Shekhar.
Clear, fine. Now, see, the major part is loading the data from SQL server into Snowflake. So that is the major part. How do you load the data from SQL server to Snowflake is you have a two ways. One way is you can connect this ETL tool and then load the data into Snowflake. You can connect ETL tool and then ETL tool, while connecting the ETL tool, source is the SQL server, target is the Snowflake data warehouse. This is clear?
Yes,
Hello?
clear. Yes, clear, Shekhar.
And this is one way. Second way is you will load the data from SQL server to files, and then these files will be loaded into the AWS account, and then the data from this files will be loaded into the Snowflake. Two ways: either you can connect a ETL tool and then load the data into the Snowflake. Second one is load the data into the files and load these files into the AWS account, and these files has the data in your files, and then by connecting to AWS and then the Snowflake, you will load the data into a Snowflake account. So we are going to discuss this part. Not this part. One second. We are going to discuss this part, not this part. So if you have a experience and the knowledge on ETL tool, then you can connect with the ETL tool and then load. So here, this part we are going to discuss. This is clear or not clear? Now tell me, guys.
Yes, clear, Shekhar.
Then how do you load these files, and then how do you follow the steps? Then I will explain. This is high level how the data will be loading into the Snowflake. Is this clear or not clear theoretically?
Yes, clear, Shekhar.
Fine. Now we'll go into our. I have written somewhere. Fine. Now to load the data into the Snowflake, I follow this approach. Fine. Now, so this method can be called as a bulk load. Bulk load. In this bulk load also, we have a fine. Now you have a data in your SQL server. You loaded the data into a multiple files and then place these files into AWS account, and then you will load the data to the Snowflake database file. So here you need to connect, you need to establish a connection between the AWS account and then Snowflake data warehouse. You need to make a connection between the AWS account and then Snowflake data warehouse to load the data from files into a Snowflake account. Once you make a establish between the Snowflake, I will show you everything. How do you create a AWS account? How do you load the files into AWS cloud? How do you make a connection between the Snowflake and then cloud? That everything I will show you. Don't worry. Fine. Once you have a files, you need to move this data into the Snowflake account. To move or to load the data, to move or to load the data into the Snowflake account, you will create a external stage object. External stage object. External stage object. This is one of the object in the Snowflake, like database, schema, table, view, stored procedure, function. This external stage object you will create in the Snowflake. In Snowflake, you will create a external object. You will create an external object in Snowflake. Once you make a connection established between the Snowflake and then AWS account, then that is fine. Next step is you will create the external stage object. In that external stage object, you will provide the address of your source files, nothing but AWS details. You guys getting or any confusion here? Prasunna?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Clear, right? Fine. Now, see here, we need to create this external stage object in the Snowflake. Once you make a connection between the AWS cloud and the Snowflake data warehouse, you will create this external stage object and provide the address details of your AWS account details in external file. Then, once you create an external stage object in the Snowflake, this external stage object will refer the address of this AWS account, and also it will refer the files. Available in this AWS account. Now, you have created this external stage object. This external stage object already has the address of the source files and also list of the source files. Now you need to move the data. Into the target tables in Snowflake. This is one more diagram. You have a AWS account. You have a files here. You will create the external stage. This in the Snowflake. Fine. Once you create an external stage in Snowflake, this external stage will have the address of this AWS account and also list of the files details. Once this external stage is created in the Snowflake, then next thing will be you will load the data into a target table from the files. If you have a n number of files in a external stage, that external stage is referring to your source AWS account. If you have a n number of files in your external stage, list of it is referring to the source files. External stage will not have the files. It will referring to the source files, and then once you create an external stage, you will be having all the details of your source files. Using your external stage, you will be loading the data into a target tables. If you have a n number of tables, n number of files in your external stage, if you want to load that files data into a n number of target tables, you can load the data into n number of target tables. So this can be called as a bulk loading, and then this external stage. This external stage is used to this external stage object. This external stage object is used to load the data from the cloud providers. In this cloud provider, from the cloud providers, either AWS, either Azure, either GCP. In this cloud provider, you will load the files from the on-prem servers data. So by creating external stage object, you will load the data into a Snowflake. This is external stage. What is internal stage? Internal stage is nothing but a, suppose if you have a files in any shared locations, if you have any files in your shared locations, then you will connect to this internal shared location, and then you will load the data into a Snowflake. That can be called as a internal stage. Now, are you clear or not? This bulk loading and the external stage and then internal stage. Now tell me, if you have any gap, then I will explain you once again.
No, it's clear.
Everyone, I need confirmation from everyone. Murali, Devendra, Jyoti Prakash. Clear?
Yes, sir. I'm clear. Like whatever you have explained, I'm clear, sir. But still, sir, like as suppose we are having data in SQL Server, and we are moving data from SQL Server to Snowflake by the help of external stage objects, sir. Sir, is there any mechanism that will have some data cleansing or data maybe some checks that we can do, or it's like a direct load from SQL Server to Snowflake, sir?
Direct load.
Okay, so that means that it's basically going to help for migration from SQL Server to Snowflake.
That's what I told you, no? Migration. That's what I told you.
Okay.
That's what I told you.
Got it, sir.
So this is about the bulk loading. Fine. Now we need to see what is this continuous loading. This continuous loading is if I am not just this continuous loading means so especially this bulk loading is used to process the huge data. This continuous loading is used to process a small set of the data, and you are doing a data loading into Snowflake automated process. To do this automated process, what you will do, you will create a snowpipe object. Once again. So you have a files in your AWS account. You have a small set of files in your AWS account. You need to load this data into a target table, and you need to make a automated process. Nothing but whenever the files are arrived into a AWS account without manual intervention, automatically the data should be loaded into the target table then you will be creating a snowpipe object in your Snowflake. What it will do, when you create a snowpipe object in a Snowflake account, what it will do, again by establishing a connection between the AWS account and the Snowflake account, Already the connection is there, connectivity is there. That is first basic step. Second basic step, you will create the snowflake account. You will create the snowpipe object in the snowpipe object. I mentioned here snowpipe object. So this is also like your external stage, one of the object. This is also one of the table, one of the database, one of the schema, one of the view, one of the store procedure, one of the function, etc. Once you create a snowpipe object in your snowflake, again you are making a connection between the snowpipe and then your AWS account. Nothing but by using the snowpipe, whenever the files are arrived, so you will make the configuration here. So you will give the address here. If I receive the files in a particular folder in this AWS account, particular folder, not in all the folders. So you will use that address here. If I receive a files in the particular folder in the AWS account, then automatically by using the snowpipe object, automatically the data will be loaded into the target table. So that is called as snowpipe. So especially this snowpipe object will be used to load the smaller result set, smaller files, and also you are making an automated process. There is no manual intervention. When the files are arrived here, automatically the data will be loaded into the target tables. That's it. No need to do anything. So for that, you will make all the setup. First, you will make a connection between the AWS account to Snowflake account, and then you will create a snowpipe object. In this snowpipe object, again you will make a connection between the snowpipe object to, so where the files are available, the folder where files are available in the folder, that also you will make a connection between the snowpipe object to your AWS folder. And then now, if connection between the snowpipe object and then AWS folder is ready, then whenever the files are available in that folder, automatically by using the snowpipe object. So I will show you all these things, connectivity, and then snowpipe object creation, automated process, everything I will show you as part of the course. Once the files are arrived here, automatically directly the data will be loaded into the target tables. Automatically data will be loaded into the target tables. So this is a theoretical discussion of your loading the data into a Snowflake. You have a two methods, bulk loading and then continuous loading. In bulk loading, you have an external stage and then internal stage. In continuous loading, you have a snowpipe object. So this is about a theoretical discussion about how we are going to load the data into Snowflake. Now you can ask me if you have any queries. Tomorrow, we are going to start the demo, and then we are going to create all this external object, and then we are going to load the files into the AWS. Everything we are going to see step by step. So as I have explained very clearly how we are going to load the data into a Snowflake if the files are available, the data is available in the file. Now you can ask me any doubts if you have, guys. Any doubts? All clear or any gaps in understanding? All clear or any doubts in understanding? That's fine. If you don't have any doubts, then we will continue by tomorrow, guys.
Hi sir, my name is Jan Panchal. I have joined today.
Okay.
So where am I supposed to find the last videos?
You need to touch base. You need to touch base with for the recording videos. You need to touch base with the institute and
Okay.
post content under whatever we have discussed so far. I can explain you if so. Go through that recording videos.
Yes. Yes. Sir.
And if you get any gaps, then I am here to explain you. a file. So all the recording videos you will get from the institute, and then from tomorrow onwards, whatever we are going to discuss and whatever we are going to create the objects, whatever we are going to write the code, everything after the each session, I'm going to, and then theoretical discussion. So whatever we are going to prepare as part of the course, theoretical thing, everything I'm going to share end of the each session.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
From my end.
Okay.
Fine.
Yes.
Any doubts, guys? Any doubts in understanding loading the data into Snowflake? Theoretical, just we have discussed theoretical part only. From in tomorrow's class, we will start all these things and provide you a demo. How do we load the data into a Snowflake one by one, step by step. Fine. If you don't have any doubts, then we will close the session and then continue by tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.